Laudetur Jesus Christus. Vatican and World News.
Today, Thursday, January 14th, is the feast of St. Felix of Nola. And these are today's headlines. Both Pope Francis and Pope Emeritus Benedict have received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. The Church mourns the loss of ecclesial leaders, and Uganda is holding its presidential election. In the Vatican, I'm Christopher Wells. Our top story today, the vaccination campaign against COVID-19 in the Vatican, which began on Wednesday, continues today with both Pope Francis and Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI having received their first doses of the vaccine. I can confirm that as part of the vaccination program of the Vatican City State, as of today, the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine has been administered to Pope Francis and to the Pope Emeritus, said Matteo Bruni, director of the Holy See Press Office, in response to questions from journalists. Pope Francis had announced during an interview with Italian television station TG5 on Sunday that he planned to receive the vaccine this week. The Pope referred to the vaccination as an ethical action because you're gambling with your health, you're gambling with your life, but you're also gambling with the lives of others. Meanwhile, the Church in Zambia is mourning the death of Bishop Moses Homongole of Manze Diocese. Bishop Moses, aged just 53, died Wednesday evening after testing positive for COVID-19 on January 2nd. Father Paul Samasumo tells us more.
It was on the 2nd of January this year that Zambia's Bishop of Manze Diocese, Moses Homongole, decided to seek treatment at Manze Mission Hospital for what he thought first was an irritating flu. Given the rising cases of COVID-19 in the country, health personnel decided to do a swab on him and confirmed that the bishop had contracted the coronavirus. They decided not to take any chances and immediately transferred him to Lusaka's Levi Mwanawasa Hospital. 2 days later, the bishop informed the Catholic faithful of Manze Diocese that he was in a stable condition. He thanked them for their prayers and said he was looking forward to a quick recovery. It was not to be. His death on Wednesday this week, 2 weeks after his hospitalization, has come as a huge shock to many. The faithful of Manze Diocese and elsewhere posted messages on social media saying, "Gone too soon." Only a few weeks ago, before Christmas, Bishop Moses had led the diocese in a low-key groundbreaking ceremony for a new cathedral that is to be built in the diocese. Bishop Moses Homongole was born on 1st May 1967 in Zambia's Kafue town, about half an hour's drive from the capital, Lusaka. On 10 February 2014, Pope Francis appointed Bishop Moses to lead the Diocese of Manze as its ordinary. At the time of his appointment as bishop, he was head of the English Africa and the Kiswahili service at Vatican Radio in Rome, Italy. A PhD holder of media studies, Bishop Moses has previously served as a priest in various parishes of Lusaka's Archdiocese in Zambia and as a Messiah Social Communications Secretary in Nairobi, Kenya. May his soul rest in peace. Paul Samasumo for Vatican News.
And we offer our prayers for our former colleague, Bishop Moses, and for all those who have died of the coronavirus. In related news, the president of the Pontifical Council for Promoting Christian Unity has expressed his condolences for the death of a prominent Orthodox leader in Belarus, Cardinal Kurt Koch, called Metropolitan Filaret, who also died with COVID-19, a luminous example of faith. Devin Watkins tells us more.
Metropolitan Filaret died Tuesday in a Minsk hospital at the age of 85. The Russian Orthodox former Patriarchal Exarch of Belarus had been hospitalized with COVID-19 for nearly a month. Following his death, Cardinal Kurt Koch sent a letter to the current Patriarchal Exarch of all Belarus, Metropolitan Veniamin, to express his condolences. He assured the entire Belarusian Orthodox Church of his closeness in prayer. I take this opportunity to offer thanksgiving to God for his many years of faithful service to the Lord, during which time our departed Metropolitan offered all of us a luminous example of faith. The President of the Pontifical Council for Promoting Christian Unity also praised his notable contribution to the rebirth of ecclesial life, to the renewal and construction of new churches and monasteries, and to the development of religious instruction and educational programs in the Church of Belarus. Metropolitan Filaret maintained excellent relationships with members of other faiths. In the final years of his ministry, he worked closely with Catholic Archbishop Tadeusz Kondryevich of Minsk. Cardinal Koch praised his contribution to promoting reconciliation among Christians. The late Metropolitan made great strides, he said, to strengthen the fraternal bonds between the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church by building up a fruitful network of spiritual friendships with many Catholic brethren. On Friday, Archbishop Kondryevich will celebrate Mass for Metropolitan Filaret in the Minsk Cathedral. Born in 1935, Metropolitan Filaret entered the seminary in 1953 and was ordained a priest in 1961. He was consecrated bishop only 4 years later in 1965 and became a liaison between the Orthodox hierarchy and the Soviet Union, serving in Berlin. Metropolitan Filaret served as the Patriarchal Exarch of Belarus for 35 years, emerging as one of the nation's spiritual guides until his retirement in 2013. I'm Devin Watkins.
Turning to world news, polls opened on Thursday across Uganda as the country elects its president after election campaigns marred by violence. Father Benedict Mayaki has that story.
Ugandans go to the polls on Thursday to vote in the president for the next 5 years after a tense and bloody campaign period. The country also elects its 529 members of parliament. Of the 10 candidates running for the number one position in the country against incumbent President Yoweri Museveni, many eyes are on popular musician Robert Kyangulanyi Setamu, better known as Bobby Wine, who is also an activist against corruption and youth unemployment. Many see Thursday's elections as a face-off between an older generation of politicians who refuse to relinquish power and a younger crop of youths mobilizing against them. With 35 years in power, Museveni, who is 76 years old, is one of the longest-serving presidents in Africa. He is seeking his sixth elected term as president of Uganda after coming into power in 1986. Constitutional amendments in 2005 and in 2017 abolished presidential term limits and set a new age limit on the presidency, which was previously set at 75. In the build-up towards the elections, the campaigns were marred by serious violence which left dozens killed and several hundreds more arrested. Authorities detained several dozens of people attending Bobby Wine's rallies allegedly for violating COVID-19 related restrictions put in place by the government. Also, Bobby Wine's arrest in November 2020 sparked protests which led to a wave of arrests and left dozens dead in clashes against security forces. Earlier this week, the Ugandan government ordered service providers across the country to halt internet access ahead of the elections. This means that Ugandans will cast their ballots amidst an internet blackout. Popular social media network Facebook also blocked a slew of accounts belonging to Ugandan government officials, accusing them of attempting to manipulate public debate ahead of the elections. More than 18 million Ugandans have registered to take part in the polls. A candidate must win with more than 50% to avoid a runoff vote. I'm Father Benedict Mayaki.
Cardinal Michael Czerny, the Undersecretary for the Migrants and Refugees section of the Vatican's Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development, has sent a written contribution to a blog on the International Catholic Migration Commission's website, entitled Fratelli Tutti and the Plight of the Displaced. In his contribution, the Cardinal notes that the new encyclical speaks directly to the joys and hopes, the griefs and anxieties of migrants, refugees, and all displaced and marginalized persons. Francesca Merlo has more.
Cardinal Czerny writes that at the heart of the encyclical is the call for greater fraternity and social friendship between all peoples and nations. He explains that the Holy Father is asking for fraternal openness that allows us to acknowledge, appreciate and love each person regardless of physical proximity, regardless of where he or she was born or lives. This, continues Cardinal Czerny, has clear implications on how we treat asylum seekers, refugees, the internally displaced and vulnerable migrants. According to Cardinal Czerny, it all starts with the recognition of the right not to emigrate, that is, the right to remain in one's homeland. This is because every person has a right to a dignified life in their own homes and native land. This, continues Cardinal Czerny, entails the whole world's responsibility to assist poorer homelands to flourish. Poverty and hunger remain rampant, he continues, and at the same time our common home is crying out from the pain we inflict on the environment. As Fratelli Tutti notes, the displaced are often fleeing war, persecution and natural catastrophes, often connected to environmental and social disasters, he says. Due to these disasters, we are obliged to respect the right of all individuals to find a place that meets their basic needs and those of their families, and where they can find personal fulfillment. And the appropriate moral response to all those forced to flee can be summed up in 4 active verbs, he says: to welcome, to protect, to promote and to integrate. Cardinal Czerny goes on to say that Pope Francis argues that an encounter between different cultures brought about by migration can lead to mutual enrichment, reciprocal gifts, as he puts it. Finally, Cardinal Czerny warns that this is our future and it must be shared with those in need, including migrants and refugees. Let us take up the call of Pope Francis for a more just, more human and more fraternal world based on love and mutual enrichment rather than suspicion and cold indifference. Then, Cardinal Czerny concludes with one of the 2 prayers with which Fratelli Tutti concludes. May our hearts be open to all the peoples and nations of the earth. May we recognize the goodness and beauty that you have sown in each of us, and thus forge bonds of unity, common projects, and shared dreams. Amen. I'm Francesca Merlo.
And finally, the Church of Pakistan has declared 2021 as the year of St. Francis. Archbishop Joseph Arshad of Islamabad Rawalpindi, the president of the Pakistan Catholic Bishops' Conference, announced the year-long observance in a video message on January 12th on the Archdiocesan YouTube channel Ave Maria Catholic TV. Robin Gomes tells us more.
The initiative of the Pakistan Catholic Bishops' Conference, PCBC, comes in the footsteps of Pope Francis, who on December the 8th issued an apostolic letter proclaiming the year of St. Joseph starting on 8 December 2020 and ending on the same day in 2021. The letter marked 150 years of the decree of Blessed Pope Pius IX, which declared St. Joseph as the patron of the Universal Church. In his video message, Archbishop Joseph Arshad recalled that Pope Pius IX had also declared the year of St. Joseph in 1870 as the patron of the Universal Church. To celebrate the anniversary, he said, we in our diocese also began this year on January the 1st, 2021, so that we may give more reverence to St. Joseph and change our lives. Archbishop Arshad lauded St. Joseph as a tender and loving father who cared for Jesus and his family. He was also a righteous man who, faithful to the will of God, contributed to our salvation. His life was full of love and simplicity. The 56-year-old Pakistani Archbishop noted that St. Joseph worked hard as an ordinary carpenter and cared for his family so that the task God had entrusted to the child Jesus might be accomplished. Just as he is the head of the Holy Family and the protector of Mother Mary and Jesus, the Archbishop noted, he is also the protector and defender of the Church and of the poor, the needy, and all of suffering humanity. As we are celebrating the year of St. Joseph, the Pakistani Bishops' President noted, the role of parents and especially of fathers is very important for us. The father of the family needs to follow the footsteps of St. Joseph in caring for and protecting his family. Archbishop Arshad concluded his message praying that the year of St. Joseph be a blessing for all people, their families, as well as for the entire Church. I am Robin Gomes.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Vatican and World News. For more on these and other stories, be sure to visit our web portal at www.vaticannews.va. Many thanks to our sound engineers in studio. In the Vatican, I'm Christopher Wells.